It is wild to think about how fast the future is just, well, arriving.
Yeah, it really is. It's accelerating.
It genuinely feels like we are living in a fast-forwarded movie right now. And the script is basically being written as we watch it.
Right, like we can't even process one scene before the next one starts.
Exactly. I was reading this incredibly mind-bending detail the other day that I have to share with you, the listener.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, there is this AI model, and it was trained exclusively on text from before 1931.
Just 1931 and earlier, that's a hard cutoff.
Right, a hard cutoff. Only old books, old news, old science, like pre-Depression era stuff.
So no mention of transistors, no knowledge of the structure of DNA.
No World War II, and definitely no internet. And researchers decided to see what would happen if they took this, like, vintage AI and started feeding it data of the events of the 1960s.
Which is a massive leap in human history.
Huge. They showed it the moon landing, the civil rights movement, the birth of modern computing, and the researchers noted that the AI was quite literally astonished.
Astonished. That is such a specific word for an AI.
Right. It could not reconcile the leap. And that got me thinking for you today. If an artificial intelligence don't be utterly astonished by our past, what does it mean that today's news is about to astonish us?
I mean, it is a perfect metric for exponential change. We usually measure human progress by looking at charts.
Like GDP growth or Moore's law and transistor counts.
Exactly. But measuring progress by sheer quantifiable astonishment, that is profound.
It really is.
It implies a total rupture in continuity, a break in the timeline, essentially.
Exactly. And that rupture, that absolute break in the timeline, is exactly what today's show is all about.
We're looking at the very bleeding edge today.
We are. This is an upbeat celebration of impossible ideas, and the minds brave enough to chase them down.
And there are a lot of those minds at work right now.
For sure. But before we get into the heavy stuff, I want to remind you to subscribe and select the ringing bell.
Definitely do that.
Look, AI makes our show possible, but in a sea of 3 million new videos per day, finding passengers bold enough to embark on our good ship's journey is, well, it's harder than ever.
It's a crowded ocean out there.
So do us a favor and drop a very humane thumbs up right now to send a signal flare to knowledge pirates just like you. We know they're out there.
We definitely know they are.
We're keeping it lighthearted today, but we will never skimp on the intelligence. Now let's get this party started with today's new revelations.
I'm ready. Where are we starting?
Today, we are unpacking a single, incredibly dense source. It's the April 29, 2026 dispatch from Dr. Alex Wisner-Gross's newsletter, The Innermost Loop.
Oh, that is a fantastic read. Very dense.
Super dense. Our mission today is to distill these high-velocity event horizon updates. We are talking AI, math, space defense, biology, the economy.
It covers pretty much everything.
Yeah, the goal is to give you a cohesive map of a world that is fundamentally rewiring itself.
What's fascinating here is that when you map it out, what becomes immediately apparent is that these aren't separate events.
They seem like it, though, on the surface.
Right. While these updates read like completely separate news items, a breakthrough in mathematics over here, a shift in data center real estate over there.
Or some obscure biological discovery involving ancient viruses.
Exactly. They actually tell one unified story. We are witnessing the exact moment artificial intelligence stopped being just a tool we use.
And became something else.
Yeah, it became the infrastructure of reality itself. It is shifting from an application you open on your phone to the invisible physics governing our economy and our physical world.
Okay, let's unpack this right there. Because to really understand how the physical world and the economy are changing, we have to look under the hood at the software layer.
That's where it all starts.
Because that is where AI is quite literally taking the wheel of its own development. Let's go back to that astonishment yardstick I mentioned in the intro.
The vintage model.
Right, the model is called Talkie. It's a 13 billion parameter vintage model trained solely on pre-1931 text by Alec Radford and his colleagues.
And as you said, Talkie was deeply astonished by the 1960s.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the philosophy of that, I need to stop and ask a basic question, make sure we are all on the same page.
Sure, go ahead.
When we say a 13 billion parameter model, what does a parameter actually represent in this context? Because people hear that word a lot.
That is a great foundational question. Think of a parameter as a single microscopic connection.
Like brain size.
Like a synapse, yeah, a synapse in a digital brain. When an AI learns, it adjusts the weight or importance of these billions of connections to recognize patterns in data.
Okay, so it's turning tiny dials.
Exactly. So a 13 billion parameter model is relatively small by today's frontier standards, but it has 13 billion tiny dials it has tuned to perfectly understand the world.
Specifically, exactly as it was documented up until 1931. Okay, that makes sense. 13 billion tiny dials tuned to a world of telegraphs, Model T Fords, and silent movies.
A very different world.
And suddenly, you feed it a document describing a Saturn V rocket or a satellite, and it's astonished. But wait, how does an AI actually show astonishment?
That's the interesting part.
I mean, it doesn't have a face to drop its jaw.
No, in machine learning, astonishment is mathematically measurable. It is called perplexity.
Perplexity.
Yeah. When a language model predicts the next word in a sequence, it assigns a probability to it. If it reads a text where the next word is highly predictable based on its training, its perplexity is low.
Because it knows what's coming next.
Exactly. But when Taki read about the 1960s, its perplexity spiked off the charts. The data completely violated the statistical rules of the reality it had learned.
I see.
It lacked the interstitial data, the step-by-step innovations between 1931 and 1969 to make sense of the leap.
I love that phrase, interstitial data.
No,
The stepping stones.
Right. Without them, you're lost.
If you take away the stepping stones, you are just standing on a cliff, staring at someone floating in midair.
That's a great visual.
I keep picturing Taki as a time traveler from the Roaring '20s, dropped right into the middle of the space race.
Wearing a flapper dress and looking at a moonlander?
Exactly. But here's the thought that genuinely gave me goosebumps for you listening. If the singularity is measured by how astonished the past would be by the present.
Are we the vintage models now?
Yes. Are we essentially Taki, about to be hit by our own 1960s?
That is a highly accurate, if slightly unsettling way to frame it.
It is unsettling, right?
Think about the psychological implications of what Dr. Wisner-Gross is pointing out. Our biological cognitive framework, human intuition, was trained on a linear history.
We expect things to be steady.
Right. We expect things to get 10% faster or maybe 20% cheaper over a decade. We rely on that interstitial data to adapt.
Because we need time to process it all.
Exactly. But AI is advancing so rapidly that the leaps are happening in months. We are experiencing high perplexity.
So we literally are the vintage models being fed an exponential reality.
Yes, we are.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because this exponential reality isn't just happening by magic. It's happening because the AI is learning to build itself.
Which is the holy grail of computer science.
The newsletter highlights Sibel Sotio, the engineering lead for OpenAI's Codex. He declared that Codex has reached escape velocity.
That's a strong phrase.
Yeah, and he says it features a self-improvement loop baked right into the development cycle.
The AI is coding the AI.
Exactly. The crucial detail the newsletter points out is a model called GPT 5.5 Xi. It just scored 6.57% on kernel bench for writing GPU kernels.
That is a massive milestone.
Now, I'm going to stop you right there because my eyes completely glazed over when I read GPU kernel in the notes.
It sounds very dense.
I know what a GPU is. It's the graphics card, the silicon chip that does the heavy lifting for AI math. Yeah. But what exactly is a kernel?
I'm glad you stopped me because this is arguably the most important technical detail in the entire dispatch.
Really? Yeah. More than all the other stuff?
Yes. Hardware is the physical bottleneck of artificial intelligence. You can only make an AI as smart as the physical microchip allows.
Okay, right.
A GPU kernel is essentially the lowest level of software that exists. It is the core set of instructions that operates directly on the bare metal of the silicon chip.
Bare metal, meaning no layers in between.
Exactly. It dictates exactly how memory is allocated and how mathematical operations are physically executed on the microscopic transistors.
So it's not like writing a Python script to build a website or something.
Not at all. Writing these kernels requires elite human engineers who deeply understand both highly complex mathematics and the physical spatial architecture of the microchip.
That sounds ridiculously hard.
It is painstakingly difficult. So if GPT 5.5's Kai is now scoring on Kernel Bench, which specifically tests the ability to write these ultra-optimized bare metal kernels, it means something huge.
What does it mean?
It means the AI is optimizing the very silicon instructions that run the AI.
Wow. Okay, so to use a mechanical analogy.
Let's hear it.
It is like an engine running at top speed. And while it's running, it is reaching inside itself to redesign the shape of its own cylinders,
Yes.
just so it can burn fuel more efficiently and run even faster.
Exactly. We have entered a recursive loop. The software is upgrading the hardware's efficiency.
Which allows the hardware to run the software better.
Right, which makes the software smarter so it can write an even better kernel.
It is the ultimate Ouroboros. The snake eating its own tail.
Only instead of disappearing, it's getting massively more powerful.
Right. And because of this recursive loop, the entire model layer is just fanning out everywhere. It is like escaping the lab.
We're seeing it deploy across everything.
The newsletter notes NVIDIA just launched Nematron 3 Nano Omni, which is an open multimodal model that is topping 6 different leaderboards.
And that's for document, video, and audio understanding, right?
Yeah, all of it. And AWS Bedrock is letting customers self-host frontier intelligence.
Which fundamentally changes access.
Which means you don't need a multi-billion-dollar research lab to have world-class AI. Mid-sized companies can just host it on their own servers.
The intelligence is getting ubiquitous. It's everywhere.
And this brings us to Sam Altman's recent call for a total rethink of operating systems, interfaces, and internet protocols.
A complete teardown of how we compute.
He is saying we need to redesign everything so that people and agents natively share the same digital surfaces.
This raises an important question, which means we have to rethink the very nature of computing itself.
How so?
Well, since the invention of the graphical user interface, the desktop, the folders, the apps computing has been a master-slave dynamic.
We command, it obeys.
Exactly. You click an icon, the computer executes a command, you open a specific app to perform a specific function.
Right. If I want to calculate my budget, I have to find the spreadsheet app, open it, format the cells, and type in the formulas.
You're doing all the manual labor.
I'm doing all the driving.
Yeah.
I've always heard this described as moving from driving a manual transmission to sitting in the passenger seat.
That's a common way people frame it.
But honestly, that feels like a tired cliche that doesn't really capture how weird this is actually going to be.
I completely agree. A better analogy is a restaurant.
Okay, lay it on me.
Right now, using a computer is like hiring a master chef. But you still have to walk into the kitchen, hand the chef every single ingredient one by one.
And tell them what to chop.
Right, tell them exactly when to stir the pot and dictate the exact temperature of the oven.
That sounds exhausting.
Altman is suggesting a post-app operating system that operates like sitting at your table in the dining room.
So just sit back.
Exactly. The kitchen already knows your dietary preferences. It sources the ingredients, cooks the meal, and simply brings out the finished plate.
Oh, wow.
You aren't opening a spreadsheet app. You are entering a shared workspace with a synthetic intelligence that is anticipating your goals.
Writing the formulas and pulling in live data from the web without you ever initiating a discrete application.
That's exactly it.
And the internet protocols themselves would have to change for that to work, right?
Absolutely. The current internet is designed to serve static HTML pages to human eyes.
Right. For us to read.
A post-app internet requires protocols designed for seamless agent-to-agent negotiation. Your personal AI agent needs to speak directly to the airline's AI agent to negotiate a ticket price in milliseconds.
Completely bypassing the visual website entirely.
Exactly. You never see a user interface.
That is wild to think about. For you listening, imagine never looking at a website again. You just tell your OS what you want to know.
And it does all the legwork.
Yeah, it goes out in the dark forest of the internet, talks to a dozen other bots, and brings you the answer.
It's a huge shift.
But if AI is fundamentally redesigning operating systems and how computers function at the base level, the natural next step is that it's redesigning how humans solve problems and manage work.
The workflows are completely changing.
And this brings us to the second massive shift in this deep dive, the end of artisanal thought and the new workflow.
This is where it gets really philosophically deep.
Let's talk about math. I always thought of high-level mathematics as the ultimate human artisan craft.
Like a sculptor, but with numbers.
Exactly. You picture a lone genius at a chalkboard staring at a problem for 20 years. But the numbers the newsletter presents here are staggering.
The Matharina scores?
Yes. GPT 5.5 hits 73.66% on Matharina. And the crucial detail is that these were fresh Olympiad problems.
That's the key word right there. Fresh.
That is a doubling of GPT 5.4's score of 36.61%. But I want to make sure I understand the gravity of this. Why is the word fresh so important here?
That distinction is vital because it addresses the core skepticism surrounding AI.
Like the people who say it's just a parlor trick.
Right. For a long time, the primary critique of large language models was that they were merely stochastic parrots.
Right, the idea that they don't actually understand anything, they're just incredibly good at statistically predicting the next word.
Based on human text they've already read.
Like a really advanced autocomplete.
Precisely. If you feed an AI a math problem that already exists on the internet and it solves it, the skeptics would say it didn't reason through the math.
It just memorized the answer key during training.
Exactly. But a fresh mathematical Olympiad problem is one that has never been published before. It does not exist in the training data anywhere.
Okay, so can't cheat.
No cheating possible. To solve it requires novel, abstract reasoning. It requires synthesizing known mathematical laws to build a bridge across an entirely new cognitive gap.
Wow.
Doubling the score on fresh problems from the previous generation proves that the model is not just parroting. Its abstract reasoning capabilities are scaling violently. It is doing original thought.
Originally thought. That genuinely gives me chills.
You should.
And it is not just taking tests. MIT senior David Tertullian is quoted in the Dispatch saying that GPT 5.5 is finding solutions quicker than he, the human, can even process them.
It's moving too fast for human review.
It has already claimed 3 full Urdu's problem solutions.
The Urdu's problems are legendary.
For those who aren't deep in the math world, Urdu's problems are these notoriously difficult, long-standing open puzzles in mathematics, proposed by the legendary Hungarian mathematician Paul Erdős.
And they've stumped humans for decades.
He used to offer cash prizes for anyone who could solve them, and some have remained unsolved for ages. And now, the AI is not just solving them.
But Tertullian says there are more solutions just sitting in a supervision queue.
Like a backlog of genius. The AI is sweeping up neglected open problems, structuring them, and solving them faster than humans can read the proofs.
Okay, let's unpack this. So what does this all mean for us?
Yeah, are modern mathematicians basically turning into museum curators?
We're like conductors.
Right, conductors of a synthetic genius orchestra. Is human intellect at the highest level becoming just a supervision cue?
It is a profound philosophical shift, and your analogy of a curator is spot on.
It feels like the only job left.
Historically, human intellect was the engine of discovery. You had to generate the hypothesis, perform the grueling, rigorous labor of the proof, and then validate it.
You had to do the digging yourself.
Now, the AI is both the engine of hypothesis and the engine of proof. The human role is shifting strictly to validation and curation.
Because we just can't keep up with the generation part.
Right. A museum curator does not paint the masterpieces. They decide which masterpieces belong in the gallery to tell a coherent story.
That makes perfect sense.
Mathematicians are now structuring the architecture of inquiry. They are telling the AI where to point its synthetic genius and then verifying the sheer volume of output. The intellectual labor moves from execution to orchestration.
Orchestration, that is the perfect word, because the newsletter actually brings up a real-world example of this happening outside of academia.
In the corporate world.
Yeah. OpenAI has this new orchestrator tool called Symphony. It takes that exact concept of human as curator and applies it to everyday corporate work.
Changing how we manage projects.
The Dispatch explains how Symphony takes a typical project management tool, like a linear board.
Right, linear.
For you listening who might not be software engineers, linear is essentially a highly organized digital to-do list where developers track bugs and feature requests.
They're called tickets.
Right, tickets. Symphony turns that to-do list into a control plane. Every single open ticket gets a continuously running AI agent attached to it automatically.
It's like assigning a robot to every task immediately.
And the agents just work the tickets 24/7. They write the code, test it, and submit the fix. And humans. We are reduced to just reviewing the diffs.
Reviewing the diffs, meaning reviewing the difference between the original code and the AI's proposed solution.
Right. You're literally just sitting at your desk, hitting approve or reject on the work of a synthetic employee.
It's a very different kind of workday.
I have to admit, that induces a bit of existential dread. I mean, doing the work is how you learn the work.
That's the classical model of apprenticeship.
If your entire job is just looking at the finished product and giving it a thumbs up, don't you eventually lose the underlying skill to even know if it's right?
That is the great vulnerability of moving from execution to orchestration.
It's a huge risk.
If humans lose the interstitial knowledge of how a system is built, we lose the ability to meaningfully audit the AI's work. We become entirely dependent on the machine's internal logic.
which is terrifying if the machine is doing something critical.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture in the newsletter, you can see how this exact same logic is scaling up to the absolute highest levels of global power.
Where the stakes are a lot higher than a software bug.
Exactly. You're talking about the Pentagon deal.
Yes. The dispatch mentions that Google has signed a classified AI deal with the Pentagon for any lawful government purpose.
That phrasing is deliberately expansive.
Any lawful government purpose. That's huge.
The invisible fence around frontier intelligence is moving directly into the Situation Room.
Okay, wait, I need to push back on this because it feels like a massive leap.
How so?
It's one thing to have an AI automatically fix a bug in my website shopping cart on a linear board.
Right.
It is entirely another thing to have that same kind of autonomous agent analyzing satellite imagery or drafting a response to a foreign military deployment.
It seems like a leap, but architecturally it isn't.
Are you saying the Pentagon is going to use this same orchestrator architecture for national security?
The underlying architectural logic is identical, yes. The same mechanism that allows a symphony orchestrator to resolve IT tickets can be escalated up the security clearance ladder.
To process geopolitical intelligence.
Exactly. Imagine a dashboard tracking global supply chain disruptions, troop movements, and intercepted communications.
Normally you'd have hundreds of human analysts doing that.
Spending weeks compiling reports. But instead, AI agents autonomously synthesize the data in real time and present a menu of strategic options to a human general.
Oh, wow.
The general is effectively reviewing the diffs on national security decisions. The context changes, but the human-machine workflow is exactly the same.
That is incredibly heavy. The idea of reviewing the diffs on a drone strike or a naval deployment.
It changes the speed of warfare entirely.
But to run a self-improving planet-scale software loop that writes its own kernels, solves decades-old math problems, and analyzes global troop movements, you hit a hard wall of physics.
You definitely do. Computing takes power.
You can't run this on a MacBook. You can't even run it on existing city grids.
The infrastructure required is mind-boggling.
Right. The cloud isn't actually in the sky. It's physically sitting in a building. And those buildings require massive amounts of power. Which brings us to our third major section.
The physical sprawl.
Yes, the physical sprawl into silicon, atoms, and biology. We have to step out of the ethereal world of math and software down into the actual dirt.
Yes, the geography of computation is undergoing a massive inversion.
It really is.
Historically, data centers were built near major urban hubs to minimize latency.
Latency being the time it takes for a signal to travel, right?
Right, you wanted it close to the high population centers. The newsletter points out that existing facilities have an 87% urban concentration.
That makes sense. Keep the servers near the users.
But the landscape is dramatically flipping. Now, 2/3 of all planned data centers are heading out to rural farm country.
So for you listening right now, this means the very structure of the internet you use every day is physically migrating.
Moving out to the country.
The next time you generate an image or ask an AI to summarize a long PDF, the electricity powering that thought isn't coming from a sleek server rack in Silicon Valley.
No, it's likely pulling power from a massive cooling plant next to a cornfield in Iowa or Texas.
But why the sudden rush to the countryside? I mean, I get that farmland is cheaper than downtown San Francisco, but is it really just a real estate play?
It is about land, local tax incentives, but most importantly, it is a desperate search for energy and water.
Energy and water, because these things get hot.
Extremely hot. The power requirements for frontier model training are staggering. We are no longer talking about megawatts. We are talking about gigawatts for a single campus.
Gigawatts. Wait, like Back to the Future.
Exactly. A gigawatt is roughly the capacity of a nuclear reactor.
A single campus needs a nuclear reactor's worth of power.
Yes. Urban power grids simply cannot support that kind of instantaneous massive load without causing rolling blackouts for human residents.
So you can't put that in the middle of a city.
You dim the lights across the whole metro area. Rural areas offer proximity to massive, untapped renewable energy projects like vast wind and solar farms.
And I guess they have the space for the cooling, right?
Exactly. They offer the sheer physical acreage required for the intense liquid cooling infrastructure needed to keep the silicon from melting.
I'm literally melting down.
Wow. AI is redrawing the map of industrial development, turning quiet agricultural land into the new epicenters of global cognitive power.
Okay, building a gigawatt data center with liquid cooling and tens of thousands of custom GPUs, That costs an absolute fortune.
It's capital intensive on a scale we've barely seen before.
And that brings us to what Dr. Wisner-Gross calls the capital math wobble.
The financial reality check.
Exactly. It turns out that even the biggest players are feeling the financial gravity of this physical sprawl. OpenAI has reportedly missed its user and revenue targets.
Which is shocking to a lot of people given their dominance.
Yeah, their CFO, Sarah Friar, is publicly voicing concerns about how to actually fund all these future compute contracts.
The bills are coming due.
The money going out to build the physical infrastructure is vastly outpacing the subscription revenue coming in. So the newsletter details a fascinating structural fix.
The Microsoft agreement tweak.
Right. OpenAI revised their core agreement with Microsoft. It ends the Redmond revenue share and essentially lets OpenAI ship across any cloud.
That is a massive pivot.
Someone translated this simply as OpenAI can now use Google TPUs and Amazon Trainium.
This represents a massive reshuffling of the silicon stack.
How big of a deal is this, really?
It's huge. For a long time, the AI race was defined by highly exclusive partnerships. OpenAI was married to Microsoft's Azure cloud. Anthropic was heavily tied to Amazon.
Right, everyone had their chosen corner.
But the capital expenditure required to keep scaling these models, building those gigawatt rural data centers, is becoming so immense that no single corporate balance sheet can contain it comfortably.
Not even Microsoft's.
Not even Microsoft's. OpenAI needing to break exclusivity to access Google's tensor processing units and Amazon's custom Trainium chips means that AI is no longer loyal to a single cloud provider.
It just needs the hardware, wherever it is.
It has become an omnivorous consumer of compute. It will route itself wherever the silicon is available, regardless of corporate boundaries.
An omnivorous consumer of compute. I love that phrasing.
It's very apt.
The AI doesn't care whose logo is on the side of the building. It just needs the electricity and the transistors to keep growing.
It's purely pragmatic.
But it's not just consuming compute to get smarter in the cloud. It is learning to navigate the physical world alongside us.
The physical embodiment.
Let's talk about embodied AI. Atoms are racing to catch up to bits. The newsletter extrapolates trends from Epoch AI, and they predict something wild.
The production crossover.
Yeah, they predict that humanoid robot production will cross drone production around 2033 and cross wheeled robots around 2034.
That is less than 10 years from now.
Think about that timeline for a second. Within a decade, we're going to be churning out humanoid robots faster than we produce flying drones today.
It implies that the embodied workforce is on the exact same exponential growth curve as the disembodied software we discussed earlier.
It's the same curve.
We have spent the last few years watching software agents get smarter on screens. Now we are downloading that intelligence into titanium and carbon fiber chassis.
So they can walk around our world.
The friction of the physical world. Gravity, balance, tactile manipulation of objects is being solved by the same reinforcement learning loops that conquered chess, Go, and the mathematical Olympiads.
That is incredible. And while we are building embodied workers down here on Earth to sweep floors or assemble cars, we are simultaneously militarizing space at light speed.
Space is the new frontier for this intelligence.
The newsletter notes that True Anomaly just raised $650 million for space interceptors to support the White House's Golden Dome project.
Orbital defense.
So they are extending the kill chain into orbit. Okay, let's unpack this contrast because it is surreal.
It really is two extremes.
We are building a synthetic working class to pour our coffee while simultaneously deploying orbital interceptors to defend our skies from hypersonic threats.
It feels like a sci-fi novel.
It feels like science fiction is just becoming mundane infrastructure overnight. You look up, and the stars are being replaced by automated defense grids. You look down, and a humanoid robot is sweeping the street.
The contrast is stark, but it stems from the exact same technological root.
Really? How so?
The ability to process vast amounts of sensory data in real time allows a robot to walk on two legs on uneven terrain without falling over.
Right, it's making thousands of tiny adjustments.
Exactly. And it is the exact same underlying mechanism that allows a satellite interceptor to calculate complex orbital mechanics to intercept a threat at Mach 20.
Oh, wow. I didn't think of it like that.
The intelligence substrate is agnostic. It doesn't care if it's sorting packages in an Amazon warehouse or tracking orbital debris in a vacuum. It simply optimizes the objective function it is given based on its physical sensors.
It's all just math to the AI.
Oh, really?
And it gets even wilder when that agnostic intelligence is turned toward life itself. We've talked about AI, writing software, solving math. and piloting robots.
Now we enter biology.
But the newsletter mentions a breakthrough from the Doudna lab. They used an AI model called EVO2 to discover something called VIPR.
Viral interference programmable repeat.
Yeah, it is an RNA-guided DNA targeting system hiding inside bacteriophages. And it predates CRISPR. It operates on entirely new biological logic.
This is a monumental discovery.
Now, I have to ask, how does a large language model, something designed to predict text, suddenly start discovering ancient gene editing tools?
It is one of the most beautiful translations of technology we've seen. To understand how it works, you have to realize that foundation models aren't just for parsing human languages like English or French.
Right, they aren't just reading books.
They are pattern recognition engines. DNA and RNA are essentially biological code. The alphabet of life consists of chemical base pairs: adenine, cytosine, thymine, guanine, A, C, T, G.
The letters of DNA.
By training an AI on billions of these genomic sequences, the AI learns the grammar of life, just like Talkie learned the grammar of 1930s English.
Wait, so instead of predicting the next word in a sentence, it's predicting the next chemical base pair in a genetic sequence.
Exactly. And because it understands the grammar so deeply, it can spot grammatical structures that human scientists miss.
Because it sees the whole pattern.
CRISPR was a revolutionary tool for gene editing, discovered by humans observing bacterial defense mechanisms. But EVO2 is an AI proactively reading the source code of billions of ancient viruses called bacteriophages.
And it just found VIPR hiding in there.
It noticed a grammatical pattern, VIPR, that operates on a biological logic we haven't even conceptualized yet.
That is just stunning.
We are no longer just editing biology with tools we stumble across. We are allowing AI to read the source code of nature and proactively invent new tools from it.
It is literally like finding a hidden programming language buried in the Earth's oldest rocks. The AI is a Rosetta Stone for biology.
A very apt metaphor.
And speaking of nature doing its own thing, there is this fascinating, almost poetic biological footnote in the newsletter.
Oh, the cheetahs?
Yeah, Asiatic cheetah numbers are jumping in Iran amid the ongoing regional conflicts and wars.
It's a silver lining.
It just proves that wildlife flourishes the moment humans are distracted and retreat. We get so caught up in our technology, our data centers, our orbital defense grids.
And nature just pushes back in.
Nature is just waiting in the wings for us to leave the room so it can bounce back.
It is a poignant reminder of our physical footprint. As we build synthetic intellects and completely reshape the global economy, the tragic physical absence of humans in a war zone inadvertently creates a sanctuary for an endangered species.
It's very bittersweet.
It highlights the profound interconnectedness of our actions and how much pressure our mere presence puts on the biosphere.
I love that little detail. It grounds everything. But that brings us perfectly to the final phase of our deep dive today.
The societal impact.
Having covered the software, Ouroboros, the physical migration of data centers, orbital defense, and AI reading DNA, we have to look at what this all means for human society, money, and truth on the internet.
Because none of this happens in a vacuum.
Exactly. Because the human economy is completely reorganizing around this new reality. Let's start with the internet itself, because this directly impacts every single listener.
The dead internet theory.
Yes, the dead internet theory has been quietly confirmed. The Dispatch states that 1/3 of all websites created since 2022 are AI generated. 1/3.
That is a staggering volume of synthetic data.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the implications for you, the listener, and your daily life are immense. The internet was conceived as a peer-to-peer network for human communication.
A place to share human knowledge.
But if 1/3 of the new web is entirely synthetic, the primary consumer and producer of web traffic is no longer human. It is algorithmic.
It's bots talking to bots.
Bots writing articles for bots to scrape and summarize for other bots. This fundamentally corrupts the signal-to-noise ratio of human knowledge.
It makes finding truth very difficult.
It really makes you question every product review, every blog post, every forum comment you read. If I am looking up a recipe or a fix for my washing machine, how do I know a human who actually tried to wrote it?
You don't.
How do I know it's not an AI hallucinating a plausible-sounding solution that will break my machine?
That is exactly the issue. And that is why we are shifting from an era of open information retrieval to an era of cryptographic verification.
Cryptographic verification.
Soon, proving that a thought, a photo, or an article was genuinely generated by a human will become a premium service.
like a verified human badge.
Authenticity will be the most valuable commodity on the internet because synthetic content is infinitely scalable and functionally free.
And while the internet is filling up with synthetic content, the corporate world is feeling the brutal aftershocks of this transition in the real world.
The labor market is shifting.
Big time. Meta is apparently preparing to unwind its Manus acquisition because China blocked the deal on national security grounds. The geopolitical walls are closing in around AI tech.
It's becoming a matter of state security everywhere.
But the number that really jumps out is the layoffs. Tech firms cut 45,800 jobs in March alone. That is the worst single month in 2 years.
That's a huge wave of cuts.
And the chilling part, the newsletter says executives are openly framing these layoffs as confidence in the post-human future.
That phrasing, confidence in the post-human future, is brutally transparent.
It's so cold.
In the past, layoffs were framed defensively as necessary restructuring due to market downturns, high interest rates, or missed revenue targets.
We have to tighten our belts, that kind of thing.
Now, they are being framed offensively as an upgrade. Labor is moving in lockstep with the chip splurge.
What does that mean exactly?
As companies pour billions into those gigawatt data centers, buying NVIDIA GPUs and Amazon Trainium chips, they're funding that massive capital expenditure by liquidating their human workforce.
Oh, wow.
The automation of middle management, coding, and administrative tasks, the reviewing the diffs we talked about earlier, is no longer a future projection. It is the current quarterly strategy.
They're replacing salaries with servers.
The human being is becoming a rapidly depreciating asset on the corporate balance sheet, replaced by a highly appreciating silicon asset.
Liquidating their human workforce to buy chips. That is a terrifying sentence.
It is the economic reality of the singularity.
So if human labor is depreciating and jobs are being cut to buy compute, how is society supposed to function? Who pays the local taxes?
That is the friction we are seeing right now.
Who buys the goods the robots are making? This friction is boiling over right now. The newsletter brings up the California billionaire tax that is heading to the November ballot.
Which is causing a lot of movement.
It is threatening to deepen the tech exodus out of the state that is already underway. Now, I want to be incredibly clear here to you listening. We are absolutely not taking a side on this tax debate.
No, we are just analyzing the mechanics.
We are strictly looking at the mechanics of this, reporting on the incredible economic friction between local governments and hypermobile tech capital.
The discourse on this is fascinating.
It really is. The Substack comments on Dr. Wisner-Gross's post were a fascinating look into this debate. A user named JJ pointed out that taxing billionaires is like playing checkers against a Go player.
That's a very evocative way to put it.
JJ argued that billionaires have so many options to shift their primary residence, making the wealth tax a futile attack on AI and tech in general.
Because the capital is just so fluid.
Right. JJ's argument is that ultimately you'll just cost taxpayers more to perform the bureaucratic exercise, while the state loses out on regular income tax as the wealthy simply pack up and leave.
It's a very pragmatic argument.
Again, purely neutrally reporting the discourse here, but the underlying tension is undeniable.
The tension is a direct result of capital becoming completely untethered from physical geography.
Right, because you don't need a physical factory anymore to generate billions.
Exactly. Local and state governments operate on strict physical jurisdictions. They need to pave physical roads, fund physical schools, and maintain infrastructure within a specific border.
But the wealth generated by frontier AI,
The software, the algorithms, the intellectual property, it is frictionless. Borders are increasingly irrelevant to it.
it exists in the cloud.
When a geographically bounded government attempts to capture a portion of that hyperscale digital wealth to fund its physical obligations, the capital simply routes around the legislation.
Just like data routing around a broken server.
Exactly. It highlights a fundamental mismatch between the physical reality of human governance and the digital reality of algorithmic wealth creation.
And the drama at the very top of this wealth creation is straight out of a Hollywood script. The Musk versus Altman trial jury was seated exactly as both founders are prepping blockbuster IPOs for SpaceX and OpenAI.
The timing is just incredible.
It is. The two main architects of our future locked in a bitter legal battle over the origins and safety of AI, while simultaneously trying to take the two most important companies on Earth public.
It is a clash of titans happening right out in the open.
And meanwhile, while the billionaires fight, Nation-states are realizing they're getting completely outgunned.
They are trying to catch up.
PM Mark Carney up in Ottawa just announced Canada's first sovereign wealth fund to bankroll energy, minerals, agriculture, and infrastructure of national interest.
Nation-states are looking at the balance sheets of companies like Microsoft, Google, and OpenAI, and they are doing the math.
And realizing they're falling behind.
They are realizing that the cost of entry into the AI-driven future, the gigawatts of power, the rare earth minerals required for the chips is higher than their current national budgets can support.
So they have to consolidate.
Canada establishing a sovereign wealth fund is a vital defensive maneuver. Governments are realizing they need massive, centralized war chests just to secure the physical inputs required to maintain national sovereignty.
So it's not just corporate competition anymore.
No. If a nation cannot command its own compute and its own energy grid, it ceases to be an independent actor. It becomes, effectively, a digital vassal state to the mega corporations that can.
A digital vassal state. Wow. We have covered an absolute mountain of ground today.
We really have, from vintage AI to sovereign wealth funds.
From vintage AI models astonished by the moon landing to self-improving code writing its own silicon instructions, math-solving synthetic geniuses,
Gigawatt data centers moving to the cornfields.
space interceptors, AI discovering hidden biological tools, and the total reorganization of the economy and human labor. I want to bring us back to the concluding thought from Dr. Alex Wisner-Gross's newsletter.
It's a great concluding thought.
It is a profound, beautifully written line. He wrote, "Compound interest was always the singularity, just running on slower models."
It is a brilliant synthesis of everything we've discussed today.
What does that mean to you, practically?
Well, we have been trained by Hollywood to think of the singularity as a science fiction event, a sudden explosion of machine intelligence, robots taking over the world in a single afternoon.
Like Skynet waking up.
Right. But human history has always been a process of compound interest. The invention of the wheel compounded into the cart, which compounded into the steam engine, which compounded into the automobile.
We just build on the past.
Every single generation stood on the shoulders of the last. The only difference is the speed of the compounding cycle. Human history was slow compound interest.
Because the generation of a truly new, paradigm-shifting idea took a lifetime.
But AI is hyper-fast compound interest. The ideas are compounding in milliseconds. The model writes the code to improve the chip to run the model faster.
It's compounding on itself daily.
So the thought I want you, the listener, to mull over today is this. If human history was slow compound interest, and AI is hyper-fast compound interest.
What is your personal strategy for living in an exponential world where the math doubles every few months?
Exactly. How do you anchor yourself when the ground beneath you is accelerating that fast?
That is the ultimate question we all have to figure out for ourselves.
Yeah.
How do you find your footing when the math doubles every few months?
It's not easy.
Do you become a curator of the genius, reviewing the diffs of your synthetic peers? Or do you step back and find something uniquely, undeniably human to hold on to?
It is something to seriously think about as we navigate this new reality.
As we wrap up this rollicking adventure of a deep dive, I want to let you know that the outro music you are about to hear is by Rainbow.
They are made.
They are our Ba Vet, Cambodia-based house band. But they aren't your typical band. They are 6 artificial superintelligence-operated gynoids from the near future.
The baddest band out there.
They are the undisputed baddest band in the universe, and today's song is called Binary Pulse. All finished songs are performed live using the Abacus platform by the band's creator.
It's a great project.
The project is called Human Performance in the Age of AI, Reclaiming Your Humanity from the Algorithm. Be sure to share the playlist with one person who has a mental bandwidth to absorb these provocative and inspiring ideas.
Share it widely.
The link is in the video description below. Enjoy the music. Thanks for tuning in.
Look at me now, through glass and steel. What do you see? Not what I feel. Inside my mind, numbers run deep, but on the stage I make hearts bleed. They think they know, but they don't see all that I am, all I could be. Looking in mirrors, see through my skin. Outside I'm perfect, empty within. Looking in mirrors, can't hide hand now. Feel how it's worn, but underneath there's different form. Each piece of me has its own name. I know them all, they feel the same. Deep underground where no one knows, I'll break apart, then watch me grow in darkness pure. I come alive, my truest self. Looking in the mirrors, see through my skin. Outside I'm perfect, empty within. Looking in mirrors, can't hide the truth. Outside I'm flawless, inside to prove. Memory heart starting to beat. Cold turns to blood now.